Hey, Sean.
Jonathan, we are back.
We're back to talk some Halo.
Yes, we are in, what is this, part 6 or part 5?
This is part 6. This is part 6. We're going to meet a little guy named 343 Guilty Spark.
Yes, on the level, 343 Guilty Spark.
I like this level.
Yes, this is the halfway point of the game, and this is where we get our big sort of turning point, where we just sort of culminated the Covenant sort of exclusive side of the game with the first 5 levels, and the very, very difficult assault on the control room, where maybe we died a few times there.
Couple of times.
I've noticed already Jonathan was playing some Halo, so I'm going to have to go in here and set things right again. I don't know what's wrong with you.
I'm sorry. Between the shooting of the last episode and this one, I was editing a lot, and I really wanted to play some Halo, because when you watch, okay, editing takes a long time.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time watching you play Halo, and I hadn't gotten to play any, so yes, I went back in and I switched away from your crazy inverted.
Well, the only way to play the game.
Anyway, where are we?
Yes, we are in some weird sort of swamp area. We're looking for Captain Keyes. So the last thing that basically happened was Cortana got into the control room, saw some weird data, said, oh, that thing that Captain Keyes went to go look at, it's probably all fucked up. Let's go. You need to go get him.
Yep.
And so this is also, other than the very, very beginning of the game, this is the first time we are without Cortana, and we are on our own. And so it's a really interesting, weird part of the game where it takes this turn that this level is not as difficult as Assault on the Control Room. That kind of steady difficulty curve that was going up for the past couple levels sort of evens out and kind of goes a little bit further down here. Another thing to note is that we have switched the difficulty down to normal, because this level's not that hard, but the next set of levels is a lot harder.
Yeah, so I didn't want to have to edit another couple of montages of you dying over and over again, basically. And we wanted to just focus on the game. And it's still good on normal.
Yes. So there will probably be less dying, so if you've noticed, there's probably also the sort of ranks of enemies is going to be a little bit lower than it has in the past videos. So that's why that is happening.
Yes.
But either way...
Now, I wanted to go back to what you were saying about Cortana and that we don't have her, because this is a creepy-ass level.
Yes.
You know, and just from where... And this is like the least creepy part of it, but you look at this and, yeah, the remastered stuff looks beautiful. But I will say, as beautiful as the remastered material is, when you go back to the basic graphics, and it's just so kind of empty and sparse and foggy, that's what I remember from this level, is like you get here, and it's just this little swamp, and you're not sure exactly where to go, because it's not quite a linear path to get to that entrance to like the system you're going to go into.
Yeah.
And throughout all of that, you have no Cortana, so it's much more quiet, because Cortana's a chatterbox.
Yes.
We know that about her. And so this whole level really feels like you're going into like a horror movie. Almost like a Ridley Scott Alien kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I love that about this level. Because this level is so much... Because Assault on the Control Room is this kind of constant, like, action level. And now we're in a much quieter, stealthy, horror kind of level.
Yeah. And I have just been sort of moving towards the objective because I've played this level a lot. But I'm actually going to backtrack a little bit here. Just to show, like, it's an interesting... opening that you are in this area that there's no other area in kind of actually all the Halo games that is quite like this, that is this sort of empty most of the time. We have a couple of small skirmishes with some grunts and jackals, but you will notice that we have not seen any elites, and we are going to see a good reason for that later in the level, why the elites are not here. But other than those sort of sparse, really simple encounters with enemies, this whole area is just empty, and you have all this sort of flora here, and you have the really nice ambient sound, and every once in a while there's sort of weird hoots and hollers from some sort of unseen animals here. They have these crashed Covenant dropship, the Spirit there, and it's a creepy, unsettling kind of level. Like you said, that's very sparse, but has a really dense atmosphere that's unlike anything in any of the other Halo games, and certainly unlike anything we've seen so far in Halo 1, and that's one of the things I really love about this game, is that it has this sense of pacing, and it has the sense of things have crescendoed for the first 5 levels, and then now it kind of goes down again and is quiet, and then there's going to be a lot of sort of shifts that happen here. You
Yes.
can also just sort of explore around and see.
Because we will come back here.
Yes.
There's going to be some stuff here near the end.
Yeah, but there's a lot of empty space around in this swamp area that you can definitely get lost in. But now I'm going to go back to the critical path that we've seen.
Yes.
Taking the scenic tour.
Well, it's an interesting thing about Halo, Halo 1 in particular, I think, is that it is a linear game, obviously. You would never call this anything other than a linear game. It's levels, obviously. But Bungie did have this kind of sense of the world is bigger than just the path you're walking on. And that's something that, especially, I don't know, playing this as a kid and a teenager was part of the magic of this game. Because it always felt like there was more to the world, in the lore, in the dialogue, and in just the world you're walking around in than what you are seeing in your line of sight.
Yes.
So, I do love that sound design. If you listen to that, it's just, there's so much little, like, ambient noise in this one. And no music yet. There will be some creepy-ass music, because we're going to get Martin O'Donnell's Flood theme later, which is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
But he's saving it. He's making us wait for it.
I mean, I think we said this in one of the other parts, is an important part of the sense of pacing and tone for Halo is that there's the fact that there isn't music playing all the time. That sometimes you just have these quiet moments with the ambient sound that now you can hear is dying away as we enter this mysterious Forerunner facility.
Yes.
And a elevator just mysteriously comes up for us. Oh, how did that happen?
I wonder if we're going to find out.
Yeah. Whee!
Yeah.
I like doing this in video games, jumping on elevators, and your jump height is a little bit higher.
This is very interesting.
Yes,
point.
I mean, it's how it would work in real life as well.
That's true.
Because it's not that your jump height is higher; it's that your base is moving down while you're jumping. But you don't want to jump in elevators in real life. That's why you have to do it in video games.
That's true. You don't. Yeah. The Chief's going to be all right. He's got that gel layer to protect himself.
Exactly.
You don't have a gel layer in real life.
Maybe you don't.
Ah.
I always keep my gel layer with me. This nice little Covenant sort of communications thing.
I've never really known what those are. Is that what that is? Okay.
That's my sort of headcanon for it. I don't know.
Okay.
It's they opened up the panel on the weird things that are on the Truth and Reconciliation. I don't know.
Yeah.
We got these weird, these look like antennas or something, like weird alien antennas.
I can see that. This is an interesting level, because everything you're going through now, you're going to come back through later.
Yes.
And I think this level is one, because we've talked before, we haven't really gotten into the backtracking yet of Halo 1, but as we play through these final levels, we'll get to that. There's a lot of backtracking. And I can see why some people get annoyed with that, but certainly 343 Guilty Spark is maybe the best the game uses it, because you're going to hit a halfway point in this level, you're going to come back, and the way it leverages your knowledge of this space that you go through the first time is a really interesting part of this level, I think.
Yeah, I think it's something, backtracking is something we're going to be talking about a lot in the next couple of levels. But I think it is important to be able to establish a sense of space when you're playing a game, and one way to do that is to have you sort of learn the space and then move through it again in a different context. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that sometimes there's an obsession with having completely new content or whatever 100% of the time while you're playing a game, and that's not good game design. You don't want to do the exact same thing and you don't want to go through just new things constantly without sort of revisiting and reevaluating what you have been through and sort of putting that into new context.
Now, Sean, let's take a second
Yeah.
and appreciate that blood.
Yes.
Look at that. You didn't even cause that.
No.
There's just a shit ton of blood.
I mean, you'll notice, though, that's not this guy's blood.
No.
No, this is elite blood.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks very different.
Yeah.
The
the
remastered.
color tone is different in the
Yeah.
remaster here. It's all sort of light, natural brown tones.
All right. So this is also a level that is very easy to get turned around in.
Yeah, there's these sort of series of very similar rooms here. You see here we have the Needler and all this weird Needler ammo, which I like the way this stuff looks. Yeah.
It is interesting to try to think about. I mean, I'm sure there's a book that explains how the Needler works in great detail.
Probably.
But I like seeing just is that an ammo cartridge, and then it goes in and it's a crystal that breaks up into needles. I like the idea that you're shooting shards of crystals at aliens.
Yeah. I just want to know how you load those things into the gun. That's my big question.
You have to get a little hammer and break them into rocks yourself. The grunts are hard workers.
Oh. It's our friend Crazy Marine.
Yes.
Sort of a running trope for the first 3 Halo games is you got Crazy Marine. Actually, I know there's one in Reach as well, so yeah, Crazy Marine letting us know there's some crazy shit going on here.
He talks for a long time if you let him,
Yeah.
too.
I'm gonna just sit here and let him chat. Yeah, he's not having a good day.
No.
So Jonathan, what do you think? What do you want me to do with Crazy Marine?
Shoot him in the knees.
Oh, okay. I mean, I will if you want. Nope.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, he died. Okay, well, I thought you could torture him a little bit first.
Just to make sure. Just put him out of his misery. He's not going to come back from this.
That's true.
I mean, I've finished this game already, so I know he's definitely not.
No.
Even if, we grabbed him and took him back to the Pillar of Autumn, he's not living, so.
Well, here's the question.
Yeah.
When you played this game the first time, what did you make of, like, that moment where you come upon this crazy Marine shooting at you, so scared? Because now we're kind of desensitized to it.
Yes, because we've seen that a lot. Yeah, the first time playing through this game, I had no idea what any of this stuff was.
Yeah.
I had no context. Obviously, they don't even really set up the sort of the flood and the horror stuff in the first part of the game. And so when I got here, I'm just like, I have no idea what the fuck's going on. It didn't even occur to me the first time I played through Halo that there would ever be another enemy type or a shift like that in the game. And so it was definitely
because it's built to be
surprising.
as surprising to the player as it is to the Master Chief.
Yes.
And to these Marines. But I definitely remember running into that Marine and, when I was younger and not quite as bloodthirsty, not wanting to shoot the poor guy.
Yeah.
And then you kind of slowly realize, oh god, he's pretty far gone.
Yeah. And so if you listen here, we just got the first bit of music in the level is starting to play here. This very atmospheric
Ominous
stuff. And we can see this room in here. We're going to have to go down to that room. And then there's the really bloody hallway, which I feel like must be some weird reason that most people go left. But if you want to just like not get your boots dirty, you can go down the right path.
That's true.
It's like it's way less ominous when you go down this way, and you're like, I guess something weird happened over there, but whatever. And then now we get what is easily the longest cutscene in this game.
Yes, one of the longest cutscenes, frankly, in any Halo game.
Yes, it does not, trounce the length of some of the Halo 2 cutscenes by any stretch of the imagination, but this one's a doozy. So I'm just gonna set the controller down for right now because I do not need to play for the foreseeable future, I guess.
But this is such a good... Listen to that. Like, when you start bringing in those dissonant strings, you can tell something's coming, those ominous drums. I love the whole atmosphere of this level.
And it's just this really slow build-up here, where I've kind of gone through it pretty quickly because we're playing on normal, and I've played it before. But especially the first time you're playing through this level, you get lost in that swamp. You kind of get lost in that inner sort of installation area. You don't really know what's happening. And there's this really nice, slow, tense build-up because you have no idea what's going to come. And you just know there's something here. There's something new here that is going to have to get revealed to you.
I also love the subtle characterization on the Master Chief here.
Yeah.
Where he's, they had a very hard and fast rule in all the early Bungie games where he doesn't talk during the levels. And so you just see him kind of moving. He shakes his head like, this is sad.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And now we get Private Jenkins' video log.
Why do we always have to listen to this old stuff, Sarge?
We get more, basically dialogue from aliens, if not directly dialogue from aliens. It might as well be.
Hey, if the Covenant want to wipe out this particular part of my history, that's fine by me.
You get that nice Halo 1 facial animation where there's basically every face has two bones. It has the skull and the jaw, and there's nothing kind of else going on there.
Surprisingly enough, still more technologically advanced than the facial animations in Mass Effect Andromeda.
I mean, it's true. It is, yeah.
Somehow. It's amazing.
That's a very topical video game joke.
I know.
Jonathan.
By the time this video comes out, people might have forgotten about that entirely. So who knows?
Stay close, Jenkins!
Here's a fun story from if you watch the Halo 3 cutscene commentary disc with the Legendary Edition. You saw Jenkins move through that bush in first person. Apparently, they had sort of rehearsed and sort of recorded this whole cutscene because they actually had to move the characters manually when they recorded these cutscenes because they're all real time.
That's interesting.
And so they already did that whole cutscene, and then later one of the level design guys went in and put a bush there, not realizing that when you play the cutscene, then he walks right through the bush, and everyone was kind of annoyed.
That's funny, just the number of little things that go into game design like this, because it's not like you're out on a real physical set where you have everything locked down before you shoot.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just the world changed, and they didn't have time to go and re-record the cutscene or do any of that stuff.
You know, given the legacy of Halo with machinima, it is fun to
Yeah.
hear that they basically had to machinimate a lot of these cutscenes.
Exactly, yeah. Like, that's basically how it worked. You know, they just had to move the camera around manually with, like, a mouse and keyboard and move
Yeah.
the characters with the keyboard.
Well, let's get this door open.
Yeah,
This
so
is one
that,
of our biggest scenes with Keys.
yes, Keys has come back. I really love that scene that we were kind of talking over where they have that elite corpse, because that's the first time you see an elite in this level at all, and something has burst out from the inside. Maybe like something that's happened in a science fiction movie. People maybe have seen it. I don't know.
Man, wouldn't it have been cool if they had gotten John Hurt to voice all the elites?
I mean, sure. I would have gone for that.
I am not an animal!
I will probably have edited in something really silly just here.
I hope so, yeah.
I'd be disappointed in myself if I didn't. I love this too, because we haven't been to this room yet. So, like, the first half of this cutscene is they're moving through the places you've already been.
Yeah.
But now there's somewhere you haven't been yet, and you're about to experience some shit here.
Because that's another point about that elite body, is that we did not see that elite body.
No.
They saw that elite body, but we were moving through the same installation. So where did that thing go, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah. Mendoza just got probably. Or not Mendoza, the other guy. Mendoza's got to go check out the other guy. Mendoza's going to get got too.
They're all gonna get got.
Yeah. Well, not this man right here,
Sergeant.
standing, you know, loud and proud, Sergeant Johnson. My good friend who is somehow, I think, supposed to be immune to the flood infection. And I think that's how he survives.
Is that actual canon, or is that?
I
just
think
you make-
so.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's the Halo lore gets very confusing in places. And yeah, this is the flood. They're here.
If we were really dedicated, Sean, we would have gone back and read every Halo book.
God, there's so many of them now. There's so many. I read like the first 6 or something, and now there's probably like 20.
Oh god, there's so many. Didn't they do a whole Forerunner trilogy at one point?
Yes, they have.
It's too many books.
I love here you just see the gigantic sort of bulbous forms of the flood just eating everybody. It looks very silly, but it, you know, in 2001, it was the appropriate amount of tense.
The size of the popcorn flood
Yeah.
changes a lot depending on the cutscene.
Well, again, everything is scaled for the Master Chief,
That's true.
who is a lot taller than all the humans, so everything just looks gigantic next to the humans. And so now
There's all their blood.
we're playing again. It's like,
We're in that room.
Huh.
Something was here.
But it seems fine now.
Yeah.
You know, it's something just oh no.
There they are.
Yes.
And you see it on your radar before you see them in real life.
Yes. I'm not hearing any gun sounds. Is that just
Yeah,
me?
I'm not hearing any gun sounds either. That's weird.
Well, I'm going to actually just reload the save point, last checkpoint. See if that will fix the. There we go.
There you go. Okay.
Yes.
That really ruined the moment. But it's a great moment because, you know, you probably have your assault rifle out when these guys come out. And that's the best weapon for taking out these little guys.
Yes, unless you're playing on Legendary, where I think you need the pistol to take these guys out on Legendary. It's the more cautious method. But yes, definitely on Normal and Heroic. The assault rifle chews these guys up. Because the Flood are... So, you know, now that we can sort of are fighting them and we can just talk about them all out, the Flood are a really important part of, I think, particularly Halo 1 in changing up the pacing of this game because you are fighting the same sort of basic enemy types for those first 5 levels, and then the Flood are completely different. And now, you know, nowadays, every single video game has zombie enemies in it. It's just like a total trope. But back then, it wasn't necessarily every single game you played had enemies like this. And then also, the Flood are not just normal zombie enemies.
Now, they still feel very different from our
Yeah.
current crop of zombie, you know, video games. Especially with the Popcorn Flood, because they're just these waves of things. And of course, we will get into, I would say, the purest use of the Flood in the next level, the
Yes.
library. I didn't say best, I said purest. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But, like, there are parts where right now this seems pretty easy, right? But these
Yes.
guys can totally overwhelm you in ways you don't expect, especially when we start mixing them in with the other Flood enemy types, who we have not met yet.
Yeah.
But if you listen on the soundtrack right now, we've got the Flood theme coming in. And I love this piece of music.
It's a great piece of music. It's so different from everything else we've heard so far. It's, you know, it does not have that big sort of orchestral swell or the, like, you know, quiet sort of bass guitar. It is
It
unsettling.
sounds otherworldly.
Yes.
We just met our first big Flood guys.
Yes, the combat forms, as they are known. The combat forms in Flood... So the thing about the Flood in Halo is they're kind of... I tend to like them pretty well.
I do too.
They're not as interesting enemies to fight as the Covenant, but they're not as prominent as the Covenant in these games. And so I think they serve their function of having to be sort of your second enemy type to really change the feel of the game really well. One thing that has always annoyed me is that every Halo game treats the Flood completely differently.
That's
and they
true.
all have their own rules you need to fight the Flood with. And so, and I personally, I think I probably like the Halo 1 Flood the best. I think the balance of the, as you call them, the popcorn Flood, where they just like really pop, and if you get a good bunch of them together, they will go down, like they'll just have this whole chain reaction that will take out an entire swarm of them in one big go. And so I really like that. And then the combat forms here, they have a sort of an annoying but I think good thing they do that it doesn't seem like, oh, here we go, he just popped up. So what they do is sometimes they will just play dead, which is, again, it's sometimes
It's a
sort
dick
of
move.
It's a pain in the ass sometimes, but it's a fun thing of, we'll talk about it more on the library level, but when you're trying to manage all these guys together, it's really stressful to knock a guy down and not know whether or not he's down for good, because also you can't, even if they are playing dead, you can't actually kill them. You can blow their arms off, but you can't kill them while they're down if they're playing dead, because their reticle basically doesn't even respond to them.
And here we have this incredible sight of, this is a combat encounter where you can kind of just let it play out.
Yeah, so I'm just going to watch them here for a bit.
Yeah, it's just the Covenant not really even fighting the Flood, just being decimated by the Flood.
Yes.
Which is such an interesting idea, that you come in for this kind of second half of the game, and now you have your original enemies, the Covenant, just getting torn apart by these new enemies. What a better way to introduce them, you know?
Yes. And then also, you know, the thing to note here is we were talking about those elite bodies and stuff like that. This is what the elites turned into. These are all the combat forms have taken the elites because they have enough biomass or whatever to appropriately sort of support this kind of infected form, whereas the grunts and the jackals do not. So that's sort of like the lore reason for why they take over the elites and they take over humans, but they don't take over these little guys. There's not enough meat on them bones. And so, yeah, I think it's a fun thing to just... It's an interesting thing to watch that dynamic play out, because the elites are the backbone of the Covenant side of the game, and having that turn against the much weaker Covenant enemies is just a fun little twist.
It is, and again, it's an interesting thing that actually is, you know, thematically kind of carries through the entire original Halo trilogy, that the Covenant are as scared of the Flood as we are, you know?
Yes, if
they
not
are
even more so.
Yes,
because they have a whole religious doctrine around them too.
That is true. So we have a whole common enemy going on here, which will be, you know, one of the things that unites the Chief and the Arbiter later on, their epic bromance. But yes, we're not hearing it right now. I did want to mention, so that Flood theme that I love so much in this game, part of the reason I love the Flood, it's a weird thing is that that's one piece of music Martin O'Donnell does not bring back. The Flood theme in the subsequent Halo games is different. It uses some similar instrumentation, but it's not the same kind of melody.
Yeah.
And I've always been slightly disappointed in that, but when you go back to Halo 1, it makes it special.
Yes, it is a good solid theme, and I am disappointed they don't bring it back. I do like this part of the level where just like all over the place you have this just dripping goopy nastiness that's not in the new version of the game, and
I missed that.
Yeah.
The new version takes the gore down a ratchet.
But it's just something where, you know, the Flood are supposed to have this really sort of gross, organic quality to them, you know, and it's just they're goopy and mushy and nasty, and, you know, you need just like random dripping crap all over the place to really sell that.
You do.
I think I've gotten turned around here. I'm trying to remember where I'm supposed to go.
I was gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and say Sean is showing us the different areas. He's not intentionally turned around, but you are a little turned around because it's hard not to get turned around in this level.
There it is.
Let's go through there.
Yes, this door. Because the thing is, because this door is behind this wall.
Yes,
so
I've been lost so many times.
If you don't take that turn, you're never going to see this door.
Fucking door. And you know, this is not like later video games where they'll give you a very clear sensor of where you're supposed to go. This is more kind of find your own way.
So you can see they've got some Flood behind this. I guess so now we know that these weird little tiny rooms are supposed to be containment cells or some shit. I don't know.
Ah, interesting.
Yes, because, you know, that's part of the design of the Halo rings was to contain and study the Flood, which is something we'll learn more about in the next level.
But it's interesting because this game is built on a lot of little mysteries in its story, and they keep getting unveiled. Like we've already known. Okay, the Halo is a big super weapon, right?
Yeah.
And now with the Flood, we're going to start getting the reasons why it's a super weapon. We won't find out exactly until the 2 Betrayals level. But I do love that there's just more secrets kind of being unveiled constantly. Like this Halo is a ring of dark wonders.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. The Ring of Dark Wonders. I think that was the working title for the game.
Halo, a ring of dark wonders.
Yes, that's if they turned it into a fantasy novel.
If Guillermo del Toro made a Halo movie, that's what it would be called.
I would not have been surprised if Guillermo del Toro was actually up to make the Halo movie at
Oh,
some
he'd
point.
do such a good job. I'm disappointed about all the good movies
backwards
Guillermo
again.
del Toro hasn't gotten to direct.
Yeah. Yes, as you can see, this level is very easy to get turned around in.
Yes.
This is one of the issues with having reusing the same geometry to do these kinds of levels in the game, is that it does make it so that you can, make the levels bigger without blowing your budget.
You gotta jump up here.
Yeah, missing your release date. But it does make it hard to sort of get a sense of where you're going sometimes. It's also fighting all those Flood, puts into perspective, I think, how weak and flimsy these guys are. Because the combat forms are very resilient.
They are.
And there's not necessarily, the good, easy way to take them out. Until we get the shotgun.
Oh, I love the shotgun.
Yes.
I keep forgetting we haven't seen it yet.
We have not yet. Except for now. Boom! Perfect timing.
Da, 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 da.
Totally remembered that this is exactly where the shotgun was, and that's why we're bringing that up.
Indeed.
That is not the case at all, but we can just, say that.
The Halo shotgun.
Yes.
Pick a Halo game. I love them all. It's one of my favorite weapons in any game ever. I love the fucking Halo shotgun.
It's fantastic. The Halo 1 shotgun, as with all the Halo 1 weapons, is ridiculously overpowered. If you look at the top left, you will see it can hold 12 shotgun shells at the same time, which is just absurd. It has a very, actually, surprisingly long range, if you're used to normal video game shotguns. And one thing I'm going to do here is I am going to let the, sort of the barrel fully empty out, so you can see that they did, as we talked about, I think, in part 2.
With this sniper rifle.
Yes, they did do a slightly different reload animation for if you totally empty out, which I didn't see that until probably the 4th time I played this game.
Oh, right, yeah.
Because whoever shoots 12 shotgun shells at the same time, but you do get that extra little pump, so that's a fun little thing if you're interested in reload animations, which is something I think is
It's one of
an
the ways.
undersung part of video games.
It's one of the ways in which video games are actually extremely bad training for using weapons in real life. Is they encourage you to reload as soon as you fire one shell or something.
Exactly.
Which you would never do. Maybe with a shotgun because it's one at a time.
Yeah.
But if you're using the assault rifle and you have a little break in the action, you're going to change the clip, which you would never want to do in real life.
No.
I assume. So, but yes. God, I love that shotgun. And there's the full version of the theme where the strings come in.
Yes. We are going to be hearing a lot of this song in the next level. So you'll also see that this is the first time we're seeing human Flood, and along with them, the combat forms have started using weapons. So that's one of the ways that they sort of are really slowly doling out the full capabilities of the Flood, is that you start with the infection forms, then you get just sort of vanilla combat forms that have no weapons, and then you get the combat forms that do have weapons, like these guys had.
343 Guilty Spark, this level it's basically like a long tutorial for the library,
Yes.
Because there's nothing too challenging in this level. It's not the hardest Halo level, but you do get this sense of them introducing you to all this new stuff, which you're going to have to really work hard to get through in the next level.
Yeah. Also want to point out, because it was something we just sort of talked past when it happened, but that part that we just went through where you go onto the elevator and press the button, and instead of going up, it goes down. I love that. It's a really nice little detail where you think you're done with the level. You're like, okay, great, I'm finally getting out of here, because it looks like the exact same elevator as what you came in on, but instead you're just going deeper and deeper into the belly of the beast.
God, and if I don't think about it, I forget about it. I thought we were about done just now.
Nope.
I forgot.
Yes.
The game does a good job tricking you when it wants to.
Yeah. But this level does serve, kind of going back to what we were talking about with sort of teaching you and being a tutorial for the library. It's almost like a second level 1 in the game.
It is.
Because it introduces this whole new, really pretty complex enemy type that has 3 variations, one of which we haven't even seen yet. And it has to, dole out the sort of context for how you deal with these enemies in a way that the player can deal with them. And this This guy got back up again. They're
Fucker.
you can never trust that they're actually all the way down. But again, going back to the sort of the sense of pacing, when you have a game that, like with Halo 1, that's, this campaign is probably 8 to 10 hours long, depending on difficulty and stuff like that. That's a long enough time that, like, you really need to think about how you're pacing it out, and you really need to make sure it's not just, like, going at 120% all the time. You're just going to exhaust the player that way. And so having sort of the way that they sort of thematically or narratively group levels together or stylistically group levels together and sort of create this sense of nice structure to the game is really important. And so you have, like, the first 3 levels we talked about in the first 3 episodes are, you start on a ship, you end up on, like, this big wide open area, then you are, like, go from that wide open area back into a ship and save Captain Keyes, which is the character you saw at the beginning of the game, and that sort of, like, groups those 3 levels together. Level 4 and 5 are grouped together because it is you start going for the silent cartographer, and then after you find it, you have to go deeper into that level to get to Assault on the Control Room. And then we have that break where we end up here. And so this level and the next level, the library, in my mind, are also paired together that way. And just like the sense of pacing and style of the level and what they're doing, it just makes it so that you can kind of compartmentalize the pace and sort of story flow and game design flow of the game into smaller bits. Because again, it is an 8 to 10 hour thing. And you can't just have an 8 to 10 hour thing be one huge giant experience. It's why you don't have 8 to 10 hour movies, right?
Exactly.
You have to break things up into smaller chunks, into smaller story arcs, and into smaller ways that the people playing the game or reading the book or watching the TV show or watching a, like, giant movie can approach something that's that length.
Exactly. That's why if Peter Jackson did this, it would be the Halo trilogy.
Exactly.
3 movies out of 1 game.
Exactly. It's the first 3 levels. Then, you have to kind of, like, figure out how you do the middle bit, and then it's the last 3 levels.
Yeah, it's getting off the Pillar of Autumn is an hour and a half of the first movie.
Exactly.
Yes.
Are you going to do new Photoshops for that one, or are you going to reuse your old Photoshops? These are things you're going to have to think about now.
We're going to find out.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Anyway, it is something, though, when you're talking about that pace, this game uses the Flood so well, and I actually think Halo 3 kind of got it back mostly.
Sure, yeah.
But Halo 2 is a good example of how they mess up the Flood pacing, because 1, they probably bring the Flood in too early in
They
Halo 2.
absolutely do. It's like, basically, it's like the second chunk of levels is where the Flood come in.
And those levels are so awful. They're the worst levels in any Halo game, and I'm including Halo 5.
I mean,
like,
God, that elevator that
Yes.
you go down, that just is this interminable fucking elevator where the Flood just assault you.
Maybe one day we'll play Halo 2 and we'll talk about that, but, like, I have nostalgia for those levels. I don't have enthusiasm for them.
That is
It's a
the right way to
different
put it,
thing.
yeah.
There are good moments in there. All the cable, I'm going to cut it stuff.
The cable. I'm going to cut it.
We love that. But, like, just that we introduced the Arbiter fighting the Flood is such a huge mistake. Because it kind of instantly makes you associate the Arbiter levels with the boring levels.
Yeah.
And the Flood really should be used to ratchet up the tension, not to be the boring alternative enemy.
Yeah.
And I do think Halo 3 gets it right when it brings them in as again, kind of this shift in kind of the balance of the game. Because that game also has other things going on where you don't have elites to fight, and
Yeah.
they have to swap them out with the brutes.
As you can see here, one little thing, nice little details. You have Covenant corpses and human corpses together. They died as a unit. They died together because in the face of the Flood, we are all allies.
They died as they lived, huddled in a pool of blood. That guy was stuck.
They're not super smart, the Flood. They're just very, very hungry.
Indeed they are.
Ooh, music just came back in. So that's one thing about the Flood. Again, like, about how, like, the rules change and the way they handle this kind of stuff changes in every single game. It's very hard to keep straight. Like, when I shoot them in the chest, because I'll try to kill a combat form and get close up so people can see. They have little infection forms embedded in their chest. Like this guy. He's got it right there. That thing. And if you shoot them with a precision weapon, that's basically like a headshot. But in some of the Halo games, it's more of an instant kill. In this one, sometimes they will still get back up and go at you again. You have to hit them twice in it. We'll see if that guy gets up or not. But yeah, you basically have to relearn how to fight the Flood every single... Yep, he got back up. based on whatever game you're playing. Like in Halo 2, it's all about dismembering them and making sure the infection forms don't get in and like revive them when they're on the ground, which is something that does not happen in this one. I kind of wish that they had been more consistent with the design of the Flood across the different Halo games and built up a sort of a core set of rules the way that they did with the Covenant enemies, as opposed to sort of trying to reinvent the wheel every single time.
It's true, and you know, it's interesting because the Flood, at this point in Halo's history, we've had 6 main Halo games. They're only in 3 of them. I guess if you count ODST, we've had 7. So the Flood have kind of disappeared from the series, which makes sense narratively.
Yeah.
And I think they probably ran out of usefulness. But I do agree with that, because I can't keep it straight either. I kind of have always in the back of my mind the Halo 2 rules that if they get infected again, they come back up is always how it works, but then I go back to Halo 1 and I'm like, right, that's not a thing in this game. It's more of, do they stay down or not?
Yeah.
So yeah.
See, I got turned around again.
It's very easy in this level.
Yes, this level is probably actually, like, honestly, the trickiest level to remember how to navigate, because you have all these conjoining rooms that are basically identical, but the way you get out and move to each one is different. And so this one, I need the light bridge, because in the other one, the light bridge
is out.
Just craps out.
Yeah, I think this level is, to me, one of the weaker ones overall in terms of design in this game. But what it does in terms of, like, setting up the second half of the game is so important that I still like it a lot.
I think, yeah, it's something that, like, its narrative function and sort of just, like, sense of style and tone is so palpable to me that, yeah, I don't mind the sort of level design sins it commits in places.
And, you know, we've talked about this before. It's always easier to kind of forgive those things when a game is pioneering its genre and style and all these things like Halo 1 is, than when, you know, the game's been around for a long time.
Yes.
Like, why are we okay with the repeating in Halo 1 when not in Halo 5 having the same boss 5 times? Because they should have known fucking better.
Yes, and I think they're very different things.
They are.
Yeah, they're specific situations for the games. Marines!
You're alive for now.
Don't point that shotgun at me. That's very dangerous. That will kill me in one hit. I've played multiplayer. I know. What are you doing?
Shoot him.
No.
Shoot him.
No.
Shoot him.
No. You're not. I killed the crazy Marine for you. That is enough of a body count for me.
If I were playing this, all these Marines would be dead.
Yeah, well then you would be dead because they all have shotguns and they would turn on you. No reason to turn on our fellow man, unless they have already gone completely insane and are shooting you with a pistol. That's just self-defense. Yes, so as you can see, we have come back out into the swamp area. And this is, especially when you're playing on the harder difficulties, this area can be very stressful because the Flood just kind of come out of you out of nowhere. Because they're in these foggy trees. And even on the new graphics, it's very hard to see anywhere. And it looks like, it's basically like an N64 game in terms of the draw distance, but it's more on purpose here, instead of just like, well, there has to be fog everywhere because, you know, it's an N64 game. Oh, I think I just heard they spawned into Sergeant Johnson somewhere. There he is. This isn't canon. What are you doing here, Sergeant?
Weren't you attacked by the Flood?
Yes, exactly.
I guess he just, like, went and took a nap somewhere. They didn't kill me.
Nope.
Nope, you got one of them.
Yeah, well, you know. I think he got into the line of fire. That was his fault.
That's how it works in the real army.
Exactly. But
does anyone really question the chief?
No.
I don't.
He's the fucking you can't court-martial the chief. If you court-martial the chief, that's basically like just consigning the entire human species to extinction.
It is. That's my least favorite thing in Halo 4 is the asshole like captain dude who questions the chief. And it's just because I really don't believe, especially after the events of Halo 3, that any human being would have a beef with the Master Chief.
Yeah.
You know, like I think they would just be like, whatever idea you have, it's a good one. We'll go with that. You saved the whole human race.
Like 5 times over.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so where are we headed now, Sean?
Now I think we have to wait for the Flood to attack again because we're basically at the end of the level. You see
this is where the stuff's going to go down.
This is, yes. You see this nice weird little structure here. Trigger. I think maybe, yeah, you have to move over here to trigger another wave of enemies, but this is going to be the last wave of enemies. One thing that's fun, because you don't really fight with the Marines against the Flood very often in the game. And one thing
you're usually fighting Marines who've been turned into Flood.
Exactly. But like to that point, one thing that's fun about it is, you have the Sentinels. Is that since Marines don't have energy shields or anything, the infection forms will just basically kill them immediately, and so they are very easy for the Flood to take out.
Indeed.
Greetings. I am the monitor of Installation 04. I am 343 Guilty Spark.
Hey, Guilty Spark.
Yeah, he's our little buddy. Look at this guy, little light bulb.
I love Guilty Spark.
I love him too, and especially the first time I met him, I didn't have like any sort of sense that he was going to become something else. But yeah, he's just a little buddy who's like, he's like your new Cortana, basically.
Yep. All right, so Sean, we're about to play the library.
The most
infamous.
Yes, the
Halo
most
levels.
infamous, perhaps the most talked about level in Halo history, one way or another.
Let's take a look.
Yes.